The bright yellow is the American goldfinch. And the males are the bright yellow and the females are just like a brownish.
You said they yell at you?
Yeah, especially the nuthatches. I have been vegetarian for 30 years and vegan for 20. And I originally went vegetarian while in college after reading a PETA handout and reading a quote by, I think it was Plutarch, that said something like, "But for the sake of a mouthful of flesh, we deprive a soul of that proportion of life and time it had been put on this earth to enjoy," or something like that. And I was dissecting animals in biology lab, and it was all came together, and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And then it took me 10 years. I knew I would go vegan eventually, and I was not ready. And I knew it was the right thing to do for the animals, but I just wasn't ready. And I try to keep that in mind when I meet other people who are not yet vegan, because they're not ready either. And I try not to be judgmental about that. One of the hardest things, I think, is reading about all the suffering and cruelty that humans inflict on animals and the earth and ourselves. But the one thing that makes me feel better is my telling myself, not because of me, when I see, some horrible story about some animal abuse or whatever, or how animals are treated in factory farms and slaughterhouses, I say, not because of me. But besides that, it's a great community. It's definitely a peaceful, compassionate feeling every day, and that feels good to know that you're doing the best you can. Luckily, I met my husband, and he was open to hearing about it, and after some time, he decided to try it, and he didn't faint. So here's his story.
Right, so I've been vegan for 10 years. I was the consummate carnivore until that. Grilled meat or some form of flesh every night, literally every night. Was convinced that I would die if I didn't. And found out that I can indeed survive very well on vegetables, thanks to her, and love it. I do it probably more for the environment. I have kids and grandkids, and I would like for them to inherit the planet a little better than I found it, which is an uphill battle, I think, but one that can be won. I think the most frustrating thing for me is the disinformation that's out there by big agriculture and the pharmacy folks, that you literally will not live unless you eat meat and dairy. If you look at the research and how it's funded and who it's funded by, you will very quickly learn that it's a complete fallacy. You don't hire Oscar Mayer to investigate whether or not hot dogs are good for you. So that's the most frustrating part for me. It's I would consider it sinister, actually. The way the lack of information is assimilated and disseminated to the public. So it's pretty discouraging, but I really feel like the vegan movement is catching on and growing, and we're doing our part to grow it. The health benefits of veganism actually saved my life. When I was eating meat and everything that's bad for you, my cholesterol was over 300. And after going vegan for just some months, it dropped to 200. I did have to have a stent put in 3 years ago, maybe 4, but I'm convinced that I would not be sitting here talking to you right now had I not gone vegan. So there are definite health benefits to it as well.
Yeah, the nurse, after they placed his stent, the nurse in the OR said that there would have been no surviving the heart attack he would have had in that artery had he had one. So luckily he's in such good shape. His symptoms were on the milder side. He never had a heart attack. He just had some shortness of breath and fatigue at the beginning of a 3-hour bike ride. But he was the atypical patient. But his main coronary artery was, main coronary artery was, you want to start over? Let's start over.
No, you're fine.
His main coronary artery was 95% blocked.
95% blocked, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.